Hey, everybody, Dr. Grant here, and today we're going to be talking about how to identify the root cause of your ADHD symptoms. This is definitely something that I think is not stressed enough, is to actually really identify really what's going on versus just saying, okay, you have ADHD. Now what? So I'm going to do this in how I actually approach this when any time I'm working with somebody who has ADHD and they're coming to see me, and what we need to do is specifically. So I'm going to do a case study of, and hopefully this can kind of shed light of how you can help identify more of the root causes of your symptoms that you're experiencing with your ADHD. So this patient that came to me not too long ago, a female in her mid 30s, was really struggling with her ADHD. In fact, she was finding that her ADHD medications were working initially, and then she found out that she was actually come to a point of where she was reaching burnout, where her energy was not keeping up with her pace of work, and she was struggling in work, and also being a mother. So a mother with ADHD too, she was having these challenges altogether. And on top of that, she just felt like she couldn't focus. She couldn't do her just tasks as a mother, and she felt like she couldn't do a lot of things that she needed to do at work. And she was worried that she was going to lose her job. And she also had this increase of just anxiety that was just building up, and she felt like she just couldn't function, and that she wasn't capable of able to just live that fulfilled life that she was wanting, especially for at work and at her home life. And so when she came to me, she hadn't really any testing done. And this is the first thing that I will do is I will look at specifically what are some imbalances going on. Why are you experiencing low energy along with your ADHD? Why is your ADHD medications not quite working as they used to? Why are you having issues with focus and task initiation? Why are you having issues with motivation and drive? Why are you having also anxiety? And that's my question. It's like the why. It's like, how can I identify this? And it really does come down to, doing further investigation. And so the first thing, I wanted to really address definitely the overall fatigue situation, because that was something that was very prevalent, and definitely something that needed to be addressed right away, because she couldn't function as a mother and also at work, and she was just reaching the state of burnout. And so the very first thing that I wanted to run was definitely looking at thyroid, since her thyroid was never really checked before, because she just had the ADHD diagnosis and they were just addressing it with just the medication of ADHD and stimulances. So when I was looking at this, when we ran her thyroid numbers, there were some interesting things, like running her TSH. When I was checking that, her TSH were just a tiny bit elevated. And so most doctors, when they will see this, they will just say, oh, it's fine. It's just a little bit elevated. We'll check back, in 3 to 6 months, and we'll see if it's an issue then. To me, this is like a big red flag of when you should actually really be doubling down and identifying why this is happening in the body, instead of just waiting for the body just to destroy itself. Because if you know anything about the thyroid, what's going to happen is the body is going to start attacking the thyroid, especially in these early stages when you start seeing the TSH starting to elevate. Because also I tested her antibodies, so her anti-TPO levels, to see if there's elevation going on in thyroid. And sure enough, they were elevated. Now, also, most doctors, when they'll run this, and they rarely ever do, but if they do, they will still say to wait until your TSH levels are really elevated, and then we'll do something about it. But to me, it's important to address the situation now versus later. So what I did is we added something called thytrophin PMG. Now, thyroid symptoms can present a lot like ADHD symptoms, things such as like brain fog, also fatigue, like that burnout that a lot of adults with ADHD will experience. Also, focus, irritability, anxiety, mood changes, all of it. Like this can present a lot when your thyroid is not functioning optimally. So we added this, and this certainly, when we retested her numbers, like it was able to bring a lot of her thyroid numbers back into balance. And this did help a lot with the energy situation she was dealing with, but still wasn't quite there where I wanted it. I wanted to have, because she was in her mid 30s, like she should still, feel like vital and be able to have that energy and just have that enjoyment. So, I mean, it did help, but I wasn't satisfied. So I wanted to run in some more further investigation. And so I did run some cortisol, because this also can really impact a lot of people with their focus throughout the day as well as their energy. And you can see clearly right here, her cortisol levels were really low very first thing in the morning, as well as midday and even into the early evening. And so the other thing also I wanted to run some other hormones because, she was having some issues along with just irregular, mood swings, as well as some of her cycles were not what quite consistent. And so I also ran those and found that her progesterone levels were not adequate, were actually pretty dang low. And so I knew I needed to address both of these situations because these also can contribute to having the focus issues as well as the low energy, but also the mood swings and also even the anxiety. So what I did is I implemented, after investigating that, is definitely using adrenal desiccated, having her take it first thing in the morning and midday, because that can help increase cortisol levels to help with the energy. And she noticed a big change. Like she already was getting some energy improvements, but just adding this just took it to the next level of feeling like she was back to where she was when she was younger. And then adding the progesterone cream, that was also really helpful because that helped balance out her mood. And also she felt like her anxiety wasn't as bad. So, but it still wasn't quite there, like where I exactly wanted it. And so, her energy was good, but she still had the anxiety piece and still was having some focus issues. So I'm like, okay, let's do some further investigation here. And that's where I did some further micronutrient testing, which is very common with people with ADHD. And sure enough, like her vitamin B2 and also her vitamin B6 levels were really low. Vitamin B6 especially is really important for converting a lot of different neurotransmitters. And then her vitamin C levels were low, which is also really critical for different neurotransmitters in our immune functionality. And then her vitamin D levels were significantly low, which can impact a lot of her energy. So obviously we supplemented these, added an activated form of a B complex, as well as vitamin C, high dose vitamin C, and also high dose of vitamin D. And once we implemented these, this definitely took it to a level where she did feel like she was definitely having back to her energy completely. She felt like she could function. She felt like she had more of that motivation, but she still was having some troubles a little bit with the focus and attention. So this is where I want to also test some more stuff as look at her actual specific neurotransmitters and some amino acids, see if there's things that were missing there. And so some of the big things that were that came back clear was her PEA levels were low, her tyramine levels were elevated, her dopamine levels were elevated, and also her norepinephrine and epinephrine levels were also low, along with her tryptamine levels were elevated. So the important thing here to identify is one, looking at her PA, because PA is a precursor to dopamine and even a precursor to tyrosine. And so it was important for me to implement something like DL-phenylalanine to bring those levels back up because that can impact the focus, motivation that she was still not quite there. And then also her elevated levels of dopamine can also impact of why she was feeling agitated, a little bit more anxious and stressed there. So I added something like L-theanine to bring the dopamine levels into a healthy range where we want it. You don't want it always, you want it too elevated, and also add a rhodiola because that also can help with compensate that too. I also added a probiotic because usually when we see elevated levels of tyramine as well as elevated levels of tryptamine, which is a breakdown of tryptophan, it just means you're not digesting it properly, but it also could mean because of her low B vitamins that help convert those things. So that's why I added also another probiotic there to help kind of help with those things. And once I did that, that really was just the last thing that I need to be implemented. And her anxiety was gone. She had her energy back. She was able to focus. Her boss was happy with her because she was able to function. And then she felt like, as a mother, she was able to really do the task that she felt like she was needing to do and having that energy and also being present. So this really made all the difference of really identifying really what was the root cause of her ADHD symptoms. It wasn't just doing a questionnaire. I mean, a questionnaire is great, initial start to identify if you do have ADHD or not. But if you really want to understand the root cause of what's going on, you got to look at your body chemistry and brain chemistry to see where the imbalances are going on there. And so that's what made all the difference. This is where it really does make a difference of getting the results. And so, I mean, if you're someone that really wants, my further help from me, it does require that further investigation. And you know, for me, my journey, it was definitely trying to learn all this stuff, going through medical school and continue education. I spent over $500,000 doing that. But you don't need to go to medical school to figure this out on your own. You don't. And most people don't realize that when we have untreated ADHD, we can spend over $1 million in our lifetime because of not having to, not being productive, having the executive functioning issues, having changing our jobs all the time or losing our jobs. That's what they found in research. And when you don't have your ADHD treated correctly. So you certainly don't need to go through that in your lifetime and not waste the money in that aspect. And so what I'm offering is just like, this patient of mine is, setting up an initial consultation where we actually will dive in and create a customized plan of action of what testing you need to get done for you specifically, and also what kind of plan of action to implement to be able to help you there. And so you can book a 45-minute to an hour consultation with me. That's a $750 value, along with an in-depth questionnaire that I have you fill out. And this helps me kind of identify what types of labs we need to do and implement, doing a full medical history, as well as interpret any past labs that you have done, any standard labs there. And so along with that, I also do provide, if you do book today on the live stream, I do provide my HD health course. That's $297 value. So the full value is $1,494. And you get that all for just $197. So all you got to do is click on the link in the description below that's provided to book that consultation. Once you've done that, it will take you here. You'll complete your purchase. Then it'll take you to the calendar to pick a date and a time. And there's usually morning, afternoon, a later afternoon to evening, depending on your time zone that are available. So I do have lots of different options there for you. And then if there isn't, you can always just email me and we could definitely work out if there's a time that hasn't, that doesn't work for you, and you could always email me, and that's provided there on this landing page. And then obviously you're going to fill out your other information of why you're coming in. And then I'll take you to this landing page to make sure to check your email to confirm your appointment. You'll also get a second email, and that second email is our client portal. This is the Practice Better. This is where we actually have you fill out the questionnaire, the in-depth questionnaire, as well as upload any previous labs if you have them. It is a requirement. It's just if you have any standard labs in the past year that you want me to, that I could look over, so that gives me more clarity of what's going on. But it's not a requirement. So, and then of course, just make sure to block out 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes we'll go an hour, depending if you have more additional questions, with no additional charge there. And also just make sure to show up early. Okay. So all you got to do, like I said, is just, if you really want to take advantage and really finally tackle and understand the root cause of your ADHD problems and want a customized plan of action, then book that consultation with me. Like I said, just click on the description below. And until next time, thank you guys so much for attending, and I'll see you guys in the next one.